Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Kristy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
And we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help make it one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, at the office-worthy, in your garden-worthy, while you're dealing with toddlers who are teething-worthy podcast. Okay, that might be like a little specific, but regardless, today is Tuesday, the 25th of May, 2021. Hello, my friend Kristy. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm still nursing my eye thing, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
And I know you're nursing a kid.
I'm still nursing a toddler thing. Okay, wait. So I don't think everyone knows what happened to your eye because we didn't catch up on our weekends yesterday because we were too busy. So, yeah, what's going on with your face?
Oh, I get styes in my eye occasionally, and I got one over the weekend. And I mean, partly I knew it was coming, and I shouldn't have put on makeup, but it was my husband's niece's wedding. It was a very important family affair because it was the first time we've actually been together at extended family. It was a very small family-only wedding, and everybody
But it was
vaccinated.
still a wedding.
But it was a wedding,
which is
and
amazing.
and he has a massive Mexican family, so it was a really big, important event.
Yeah.
Which was delightfully uncoordinated. It's really, but it was beautiful and sweet. So I did put makeup on to go down a couple hours from where we live to this wedding. But by the late afternoon of that event, my eye was just starting to swell and be painful. And so I'm like,
So now you're paying for it.
So now I'm paying for it. And it just means I have to do warm compresses every few hours. And I have antibiotic eye drops. And it's just sort of.
I mean, on the bonus side, this does send you home. So you have to work from your home office.
Yes, it's true. I'm
few
working
days.
from home now this week.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, so my weekend was likewise different than planned. A certain little tiny person in my life has molars coming in, and some kiddos, I guess, breeze through them, and some kiddos don't. And my sweet little one is not breezing through it. So it was a trying weekend for her little heart because she's I think Amelia nailed it in the pre-show call. She was like, she's old enough to express that she's unhappy, but not to understand why. And, at some point on, I don't know, Sunday night, she woke up in the middle of the night saying, no more, all done, mommy, all done, owie. And I just, so we're still
make it go away.
Yeah, like make it go away. Like, oh, sweet thing. You're going to say this so many more times in your life. But it's, that is part of momming. I actually read this fantastic article on the BBC. And let's just remember, this is Mental Health Awareness Week. So if you guys are reading the Optimist Daily or other media out there, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're doing a deep dive here this week at the Optimist Daily on mental health and acknowledgement of the challenges and things that we face as people and as humans, because that is so critical to success for us going forward as a society, and really lifting the veil on this idea that we're all totally okay and totally doing fine, because being totally okay is not necessarily the goal, right? That's not reality. Like being in the middle of living life and the messiness and the complication and really coming out of it through the optimistic lens. That's what we want to offer folks here, And
I think one thing that's interesting about this last year, when things were really changing for so many people so quickly, and we're all suffering from the collective grief and the anxiety of this new virus, and then the economic collapse that went along with it, and being socially isolated, I think there's a new acceptance of how normal it is to be have stress and how important mental health is. So I find it really a positive step, that sort of that destigmatization of mental health issues, because all of us have been suffering in our own ways. And I think it's a super crucial time in our cultural awareness of this. So I think that's a good thing about mental health.
It's
awareness.
So interesting because we were talking a little bit about there's some authors that I really like who write the messy memoirs, and it's very sort of like pulling the sheets back on life. And a lot of this conversation can feel uncomfortable, certainly generationally, right? I was raised in an environment in a family where we really, like, you just soldiered on. Everything was okay. You really didn't dig deep into the challenges and the pain and the emotion, and a lot got bottled up. And I made decisions in my life growing up and like made commitments and even made my first marriage because I didn't sit down and say, like, this is how I'm feeling. This is rough. This doesn't work. This doesn't feel good. And so it's a tough conversation, and it might be uncomfortable for some people who are listening, but it's also, if you were raised in a different environment where you guys talked about this stuff a lot, that also might be uncomfortable, right, Kristy? It's like both sides of the same coin.
Well, it's just I find the messy memoir, sometimes I find them annoying. And this is what we were talking about. It's not that they're not well written and also bring you into this person's life, but I was raised in a way where there's a lot of messiness around me. And I still know people who are still talking about that messiness, but it gets stuck in it. And for me, I think it's important to take ownership of that and move on. And granted, most of the people who are writing these memoirs, they tell the story of their journey of taking ownership for their messy stuff and moving on. I'm very sensitive to victimized ways of looking at the world.
Right. Well, and it is like, it's sort of those extremes, right? So it is about, and that's what mental health awareness is fundamentally about, is awareness, ownership, and having the tools to move forward in a productive way. And that's kind of honestly what at the Optimist Daily we look at, right? You are where you are. The world is where it is. We do have climate issues and social justice issues and water cleanliness issues. We know these are real. We have to talk about them, and then we have to come up with tactical solutions to move forward in a productive way. So we love this mental health awareness talk because it's like perfect runway to, I don't know, solutions journalism, right?
Well, absolutely, because part of what the oversaturated media has brought into the world is a sense of overwhelm, and we're always being reminded of how things are broken.
Right.
And that also, I think, leads to a sense that we don't have power in our own lives, that we lack agency, which is very detrimental to doing anything big and important in the world. And there's a lot of big and important things we really have to tackle. And it's also really not productive in moving forward in your own individual life and finding ways to heal from past hurts and move on and move through complicated messiness of life.
Exactly. Well, speaking of moving on and moving through, I feel like water flows. So do we want to talk moving on and moving through wastewater today first?
Yes. Why don't we talk about your article?
All right.
What do you want to focus on today?
Okay. So everybody who listens to the Optimist Daily Update on a regular basis knows that water is my jam. I love the idea of using this amazing resource in different and more thoughtful ways. Wastewater is such an important resource that we need to identify ways of reusing it, keeping the energy in the system as opposed to just dumping it out. So my headline is hailing from my original hometown, Denver, Colorado, reads, Denver will be home to North America's largest sewer heat recovery project. Did you know that hot water you send down the drain could actually be used to regulate the temperature of buildings, especially in cold places? Called sewer heat recovery. The process essentially captures warm water from showers, washing machines, dishwashing, and stores it into a heat consistent pit. And this is gray water, right? This isn't black water, although I'm not 100% sure if shower is considered black water, but this is gray water. It's stored and then used to heat and cool nearby structures.
Now, Summer's shower is gray water.
Is it gray?
Don't actually pee in their showers, although
No, 100% of people pee in their showers, Kristy. Let's be clear, 100% of people pee in their showers. But that is gross, and people don't want to hear about that on Optimist Daily Update. But I just tell it like it is. Anyway, Colorado is building the largest sewer heat recovery project in North America. The state itself is investing $1 billion to remodel Denver's National Western Stock and Rodeo site, which is really funny because I went to that site when I was a tiny kid, only to discover I was allergic to horses and ended up hospitalized. So it's funny. I didn't even realize that was in this story. Long story short, allergies are rough. But this new structure will become a hub for art, education, and agriculture, and will be entirely heated and cooled by energy from the sewer pipes below. This capture system will actually avoid carbon emissions equivalent to driving gas-powered cars around the equator 250 times. So it's a great recapture process. This can be done in a lot of different ways, but it's most effective when a large amount of wastewater can be collected. So it's, convention centers and big sites where there is going to be a ton of wastewater, making the solution ideal for projects like enormous radio sites. It's not as practical for homes and apartments because you don't have the volume of water, right. But there are other great ways of reclaiming gray water that are rolling out as well.
And actually, over the weekend, I was reading an article about, is it time to get over our aversion to using water? Like, I think it's called from flush to faucets. There's a movement afoot right now.
Right.
Because we have the technology and the capability to fully purify water, which is even used from our toilets. And the fact that we flush everything, we use so much water to get rid of our human waste. It's very inefficient use of water in so many ways, because especially since it just goes out into the oceans or the rivers, and yes, it's treated, but then we just get rid of that water. And if we could create these closed loop recapturing of that water, that's important now that we're in a water scarce world, at least where I live. Well, I know where you live is not so scarce.
Exactly. It's regionally appropriate, right? And we talk all the time about solutions not being siloed and that each region needs to have an appropriate solution. So Texas may be worried more about wastewater affecting wildlife. So water is an important resource that must be properly managed. But a place like California, where water is such a critical resource, and we're, putting solar panels on top of aqueducts for the Colorado River, it's just, we have to revisit how we use this critical resource in all areas. So
right, and it's we talk a lot about desalination, which is taking water from the oceans and getting rid of the salt in it so that we can drink it. But it's actually a lot cheaper to just reuse wastewater.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just as clean. You can make it just as clean.
You can make it just as clean.
It's just, we have the yuck factor that you have to get over. Well, and I know that's not what this is about. This is about actually using the heat in that water, sewer heat recovery, not actually the water heat recovery. But it does cut down on the amount of energy you need to heat that water and keep those buildings warm or cool.
Yeah. So moving on from the yuck factor to
well,
what's your headline today?
My headline also is talking about water purity and how do we know what's in our water. And the headline reads, "Sea squirts can help address our ocean's growing microplastic problem." And we've written often on the Optimist Daily about how some of the most unassuming creatures can really unlock big changes and big innovations. We wrote about the sea cucumbers a few months ago, which, even though they're kind of funny looking and they have a very humble existence, they play a vital role in maintaining the health of the underwater ecosystem. And also they can give us a lot of information about that health and how human activity impacts the marine environments. And along those lines, there's what this article is talking about is the simple sea squirt known as the tunicate clavellina robusta. That's the, I guess, scientific name, but it's a sea squirt. It's a little animal that lives down there on the bottom of the sea. And by studying these sea squirts, scientists can help monitor the steadily growing quantity of microplastics that are present in the world's oceans and start to unpack where they came from and which specific types of plastics have accumulated en masse on the sea floor and in the sea environment. And the reason that is that these sea squirts, they are basically filter feeders, which means they filter up the dirt and the sand, and then they push that through their bodies, and that's how they get the food that they need. And
what does a sea squirt look like?
Oh gosh, you asked me the hard question. They are these little, they look a little bit like a funnel. It's like a little funnel thing that it's affixed to a rock or something, and then it squirts water out. And they can be brilliant colors or they can be very plain colors, but they're looking kind of like a pitcher, like a water pitcher. But I think that it sucks in water and then it spits it out. It sucks it in and it spits it out because they are filtering the environment around them, and that's what they're eating. Those microplastics get stuck in their bodies, and so by harvesting some of these sea squirts and figuring out what's actually in them, the residue in those microplastics, the scientists can figure out which kinds of plastic waste are really the most problematic in different environments. So I just like these stories where we're looking at how we can use natural systems to both monitor and inform and then help direct us towards being better stewards.
Yeah, looking for different indicators and unexpected indicators that would give us insight into the health of our systems, and then taking action from the information we get from them.
Yeah, and I also like it whenever we celebrate the little guy, the unassuming creatures that really are all part of our wonderfully complex and biodiverse world that we live on.
Well, we've got a lot of other great stories on the Optimist Daily today. We've got a headline that reads 8 ways to kickstart socialization skills after the pandemic.
Oh, I need to read that one.
Jinx. Why it's important to teach your kids how to celebrate themselves. Garlic is good for you, but how you cook it matters. Psychedelic-like drugs could treat depression without hallucinations. Kristy, what else do we have?
Well, we have a story about a comic strip competition, which helps children see spiders in a more positive light, and a historically Black university that cancels more than $730,000 of student debt. I actually almost talked about that story, but we were into water cleansing today. But I think that's such a fantastic solution, and student debt is really a burden that's weighing so many people in the United States down. And our friends in Europe don't really understand how we do what we do. But anyways, that's a great article. There's a 5-minute writing exercise to help cultivate gratitude. And another idea on how to solve our plastic waste problem. Let's make an island out of it. And that is what we have on today's Optimist Daily. Thank you so much for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to keep sharing positive, solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in the changing world and help ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
Please consider becoming an emissary on the optimistdaily.com, and for just $5 a month, support reader-funded independent solutions journalism. Be part of the solution-changing consciousness and addressing our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Help us keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those who can. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.